Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Chargers, we are definitely in an uncharted time in the history of our world. I wanted to share episodes this month that will make an impact in your business and life during this uncertain time. For a speaker, trainer, and podcast host, my work with organizations are suspended at this time. So I decided I wanted to do something to help the stress and negativity of our society is facing. So I decided to record a webinar called 10 Ways to Be Positive in This Uncertain Time. This free webinar with no opt-in required is available to you to view and share with your friends, family, and colleagues. To watch the webinar, go to bit.ly/Gary Wilbers-webinar Be Positive. The best place would be go to chargepodcast.com to find the link in our show notes at the very top of the page. This is a complimentary webinar to share 10 practices you can do to stay positive and how you can help others during this uncertain time. Each week this month, we will have a great guest lined up that will give you a different perspective on the current situation in our world today. Our second guest this month is John Jantsch, who is a small business owner with a wealth of knowledge for entrepreneurs. John shares some great advice for all of us to consider in this uncertain world and wrote a book called The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur. He shares some great practices about marketing that I think are golden nuggets for you at this time. Let's get to our interview. Welcome back, Chargers. We're so glad you decided to join us today on another great podcast. I love bringing you different guests each and every week to really give you a different perspective. And this week, I'm really excited because we've got a guest that I think is really going to help you think about your business and think about yourself as an entrepreneur, how you can market your business better, but also some things that you can do to really help your business get set up for success. John Jantsch is a marketing consultant, speaker, and author of Duct Tape Marketing, the Referral Engine, Duct Tape Selling, the Commitment Engine, and SEO for Growth. His newest work, The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, 366 daily meditations to feed your soul and grow your business, taps into the wisdom of the 19th century transcendentalist literature and the author's own 30-year entrepreneurial journey to challenge today's entrepreneur to remain fiercely self-reliant while chasing their own version of success. In addition to his own writing, speaking, and consulting career, Jantsch is a podcasting pioneer with a continuous string of weekly podcast episodes dating back to the summer of 2005. Wow. I'm a little bit worried now. I've got to be a really good host here to be able to share this with someone that's done that many podcasts. But John has interviewed thousands of guests and appeared on the other side of the mic as a guest hundreds of times. And John, we just can't thank you enough for saying yes to the Charge Podcast. Welcome, my friend.
My pleasure, Gary. Great to be here.
Well, I always ask every guest the same question because I love getting different aspects, and it's my mantra, charge. Create habits around real goals every day. What habit or habits do you think has led to success in your life?
Well, I've had a kind of a morning ritual forever that I stick with, and it doesn't matter. It's a variety of things. Might take me close to 45 minutes to an hour to do it every day. And since after the kids grew up, I got really good at it when they left. But it does a couple things. No matter what's going on, it makes me very mindful of the present moment. It kind of helps center me, and frankly, one of the things I try to come away with is identifying the most important thing for me to accomplish today. And I think that habit, first off, it does, it makes you stop worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. And it hopefully keeps you off Facebook when you should be doing the most important thing. And so I really, that habit I think has served me well, because you string together 30 of those most important things in a month, and you've probably made some progress.
Yeah, and I think that's really important now. As we know, we're cutting this during the uncertain time with everything that's going on in the world with COVID-19. And I think it's very important to people to realize right now, it's always important. But boy, if you can get back to getting yourself some time where you're thinking, and before you just jump into the day. Plus, a lot of people are working from home for the first time ever, and they really don't know how to diagnose this. And what I'm seeing, and I've heard at least from people, is they're having a hard time getting themselves out of bed. So instead, we're telling you get up early and give yourself, I think you got to have that hour. I want a minimum of an hour that is kind of that me time.
Yeah.
Especially if you got children home right now and everything else, you may have some of those challenges. And that morning routine, I think, is just so valuable. And it's one that I found every day I do it, I get value out of it. And it's one of those value bombs that's there.
Well, it's interesting. People are being forced to slow down. Some cases maybe have extra time on their hands because of a situation with work or with their business. And that instead of, I think, worrying about what this is going to mean, I think that let's bet on yourself. Invest in yourself right now. If you do have that extra time, as you said, establish a new habit that's going to be better for you. It might be a health habit. It might be a spiritual habit. It might be something to do with learning a new skill, or something you've always put off. I mean, I've wanted to learn Spanish forever. I'm goofing around with the mandolin right now, which is an instrument I've never played before. I think that there can and should be. You should look at what are the positives that are not only happening right now, but that are going to come out of this long term, and start preparing for that. We're not going to be in this forever. And so start preparing for when things open up and change. And I think you'll be ready to take advantage of sort of the changes and opportunities that are going to present themselves.
I think you're so right there. And I think that sets up really where I thought we'd go. We're definitely going to talk about some marketing, but I thought let's really start, because I do have one of your books that you wrote on the Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, and kind of share with us what you mean there, and maybe give us a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, so this is a very different book. This is my 6th book. My 5 other books have been squarely about some aspect of how to do marketing. And it really kind of came to a point in my life, my career, where I thought I want to write something that is much more about mindset. And, I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, and I think that there are definitely certain traits and habits that have benefited me and have allowed me to grow as a person. And so I thought I want to write a book like that. And I came upon a format that people are telling me, is a very useful read. It's so every day. So that's thus the 366 daily meditations. Every calendar date, you have a 1 page. Takes you about 2 minutes to read. It is anchored in some literature that I curated from the mid-19th century. Think Thoreau, Emerson, Margaret Fuller, Louisa May Alcott, all stuff many of us were asked to read in high school and college. But I chose that particular body of work because in the 1850s, the United States was in a very major upheaval. We were on the cusp of the Civil War. Women were certainly starting to assert themselves for the right to vote. We were trying to abolish the legal act of human slavery. And so the writing and the literature and the teaching that came out of that period was very much, hey, maybe we should stop listening to our preachers, our teachers, our parents, our politicians, and start thinking for ourselves. That maybe what we should do is follow what's in our own unique heart. And so, some of that writing was very overt. I mean, Emerson's Self-Reliance, which is I borrowed for the title Self-Reliant, very much preaches and teaches that very thing. Thoreau's, civil disobedience, very much teaches that overtly teaches that concept. But even the fiction from that period, the protagonist in Moby Dick, in the Scarlet Letter, even in Huck Finn, we're very much, this may cost me everything, but I have to follow my heart. So I curated hundreds and hundreds of works from that period. Every day starts with a little reading from some work that I curated. And then I give 100 and 150 words to maybe contextualize it for today's entrepreneur. And then here's the hard part for a lot of people. I leave you every day with a question. So this is not a fluffy, like, here's an inspirational quote to fire you up. A lot of ways it's, hey, here's the truth. Are you thinking about the truth as it applies to you? And so I wrote many of the pages of this book over a year ago, but boy, I'm given the health challenge and the changes and the uncertainty and the fear that's going on right now, all over the world. I'm certainly hearing from people that this is like medicine, for their kind of their daily read to have something that they're fitting into a morning routine that gives them inspiration, gives them a journaling prompt, for people that do that. So it's been. I certainly am not suggesting that I foresaw any of this, and the words were just as relevant a year ago for the entrepreneur, but I think we're all just focused on maybe some different priorities at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's a real key for entrepreneurs, because right now, let's be honest, I think the challenging part for most entrepreneurs, they know for themselves what they can do, but of course they're worried about their people. Yeah, business owners, I always said the hardest part was, for my people, I'm worried about them because I believe in myself that I can move forward, but they have some of those fears and some of those things that's coming through. So even without this, they have those struggles of those demons, fear, fatigue, failure. How do you combat those and kind of move forward each and every day?
Well, I really think that, and people have been preaching this for years, but for me, the number one tool is to practice, establish a habit of practicing mindfulness. And all I mean by that is that worry about today. That doesn't mean that you don't plan for the future or that you don't have goals, but if we spend too much time worrying about what's going to happen, we'll let the place where there's the greatest joy, which is right now, slip. And I think that I think has become more important than ever. I have a community of consultants that license the duct tape marketing approach, and we work with. We just had a meetup that we do weekly, and we started it by just saying, "Hey, here's what I'm grateful for." I mean, there's a lot to worry about right now. There's a lot to not be happy about, but let's face it, there are many things to be grateful for. And I think when you're in kind of that mindset, it's hard not to be present. So that is that's a pillar of self-reliance as far as I'm concerned, but I think it's got to become a tool in your toolbox right now.
Yeah, because it brings that solitude, brings kind of knowing that, because that's what I'm hearing from a lot of business owners is they're getting caught up in all the issues that they're not able to move themselves forward. I just recently did a webinar, and basically one of them I was talking about is you've got to find some time, whatever that spiritual is for you. But I believe meditation and mindfulness is one of them that needs to come out, because that allows you to focus on the now. Otherwise, you lose days, and then each day becomes another day, and you lose the whole week, and then you're not moving anything forward in your business. And right now, we've got to be the ones that we're being proactive, not reactive.
That's right. And the other thing, I think hopefully people can come to the belief, I've had my business, as I said, for 30 years. I went through 9/11. I went through the recession in 2008. This is obviously a different beast that we're going through right now. But one of the things that I saw is that opportunity came out of both of those. And I don't mean opportunistic. I mean, opportunity came out of that because it changed some element of business. It changed some way that, people wanted to buy products and services. And it allows people who are paying attention to really capture an innovation that adds value in a new way. And I think start looking for those, start thinking about those ideas right now, because I think that's going to come. We are going to get through this. And so, be prepared for it.
Yeah, and I think we've had these tools before, but you and I are using Zoom right now.
That's right.
And we're seeing each other. I'm in Missouri. I know you're from Kansas City, but I think right now, are you in Colorado?
I am in Colorado, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so he's in Colorado, but we're communicating just like we're right here together. And I think what's going to happen with this, we knew this was available before, but I don't know how much business was transacted before.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to see is some of those changes.
I mean, I've always been an early adopter on some of this technology, and that's what sometimes people have looked to duct tape marketing for. So I've been doing online client meetings using Zoom and Skype, and some of the other GoToWebinar I used to GoToMeeting, forever, probably for I would say every bit of 10 to 12 years, and I've been encouraging clients to start doing it, because it's not to replace. And hopefully we'll never replace hugs and handshakes and in-person meetings, but it supplements it. So I was just saying it allows, for some efficiencies. It doesn't necessarily replace. And it also, another thing it does, and maybe businesses are starting to think this way, it allows you to offer your services globally, automatically. If you're kind of bound by the geography and your particular part of the world is not as not moving forward as well, or you've kind of tapped out what you can do there, it's a great way to expand. So, and now obviously you should have bought Zoom stock about 3 months ago, because they are experiencing just an unprecedented growth, because so many businesses that had not considered this technology have been forced to use it. And what's interesting is, I think that, talking about innovation and behavior change, I think that this approach will not go away. After we're through this, a lot of people are going to say, hey, I like this works. I can use this in certain ways. So, be prepared for that. This is not just a temporary patch. This is probably something that's going to change the way we do business in pretty dramatic ways.
Just make sure you buy the right Zoom stock. I saw that. There's two Zooms out there, so just make sure you get the correct one. And I'm not going to try to attempt to say which one it is.
Yeah, when their IPO came out, the other company just their stock soared, and everybody's like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, I've heard that's happened some currently too.
Yeah, well, I actually have an idea, Gary.
Go ahead.
Is why don't I read today's? We are recording this on March 27th. Why don't I read March 27th's entry? And I think that obviously we've talked about the book conceptually, but that'll give people a real flavor.
Yeah.
So every day starts with a title that I picked, then some reading from literature, then 150 words from me, and then a question. So today, March 27th, lifting the weight. The stigma gone, Hester heaved a long, deep sigh, in which the burden of shame and anguish departed from her spirit. Oh, exquisite relief. She had not known the weight until she had felt the freedom. That was actually a passage from Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. And so that was, the protagonist Hester was finally set free. And I love this line. She had not known the weight until she felt the freedom. And I think a lot of us are, how much do, when we're trying to get our taxes done on time, how much we don't realize how much weight that is, because we keep putting it off until it happens. So my context for that: have you ever labored under a deadline, constantly procrastinating, making excuses, checking Facebook, only to determine that that right now is the perfect time to tidy up your closet? But then April 14th rolls around, the day before your taxes are due. You put in the work and you meet the deadline, only to experience an amazing feeling of relief, a rich physical lightness of being. The problem is we don't realize how thoroughly our subconscious runs the show at times, how much weight it applies to anything it deems painful or even slightly uncomfortable. Faced with even greater pain, though, not meeting a deadline and receiving a large fine, we gather the strength to finally wrest back control. The key, of course, is to never allow yourself to lose control in the first place. Well, yes, that would be nice, wouldn't it? The solution lies in freeing up enough space for deep work. You can't accomplish your most important, most pressing, high payoff work unless you permit yourself and your brain power long runways of time to think and accomplish. Block out that time or you'll never find it. Today, identify that one most important thing on your to-do list, and don't even think about anything else until you've completed it. You feel lighter already, don't you? So your challenge question is an easy one today. What is your most important task today?
Wow. And how practical that is. Just think about it. How many entrepreneurs right now are worried about what's going on and they're not taking action? But instead of taking action on everything, what are you going to do? What's the one thing today that's most important?
And what's interesting about that is maybe it is starting that book that you want to write. Maybe it is creating a course, but it might just be reaching out to your 5 best clients and checking in and making sure they're doing okay. You get to decide what's important, and that what's important will change daily, weekly, monthly, I'm sure. But if you don't identify it and take action on it, because sometimes important is hard, sometimes important is scary. And so if either of those factors are involved in important, we're probably going to just push it aside, to later in the day. And then of course we have no energy, no courage left. And so we don't do it. So that's why I think it's great advice to tackle it early.
Yeah. What a great book. Please give them the title again and where they can go to get it, John.
Sure. It's The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, 366 Daily Meditations to Feed Your Soul and Grow Your Business. And it's, I talk about it as less of a book and more of a practice. It's something that you leave on the corner of your desk, you just pick it up, read for 2 minutes, and it's going to bury something, deep in your subconscious, to charge you up for that day. You can buy the book, of course, anywhere people buy books. There's an ebook version, a hardcover version, an audiobook version. And if you want to find out more about it, it's just self-reliantentrepreneur.com, and that'll take you to a page that will show you reviews and interviews like this that I've done around the book.
Great. And we'll have all that in show notes for you at chargepodcast.com. So if you're being active right now as you're listening to the podcast, that's available to you. Know that you can go back and look at all the information that's there as well as show notes. I want to talk of a little bit of time because at this time too, marketing is always important for every business, but for small business owners, it's hugely important because that's what brings their revenues in and allows it to really capture it. And I'm going to let you share, John. I know some of your processes, but what do you think if I was the entrepreneur and I'm looking to do something now to really generate some business because maybe right now things are down? What are some things and steps I should be thinking about in my marketing aspect to really try to generate my marketing?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of conversation around this, and I hopefully won't add to the noise because, a lot of people are talking about this, but strategically, now's the time to get as close as possible to your clients. There may be a little pullback in getting new clients, because ultimately somebody becomes a client because they have a problem they want to solve and they trust that you can solve it. There's a little bit of retraction, whether you're in B2B or B2C. And so people are kind of, the unknown sometimes makes it hard for them to make a new decision to buy something. In some cases, the unknown's actually pushing them to take action on things they know they should have long ago. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to shut down and everybody's in a different place. But I would say if there was one overarching thing I've been saying is over communicate, be transparent with your clients. So they don't need, I get 10, here's our ideas about, the health epidemic. They probably don't need that information from you right now. It's everywhere. There are people that are smarter and paid, to write about and understand these things and talk about it. But what they do need to know is what you're doing to keep your people safe. They need to know what you're doing to protect the brand. They need to know how you are staying true to your values. So that kind of communication, I think, is great. I would also suggest that, if you are in situations where, say, clients are saying, I need to cut back or I need to cancel or I need, whatever it is that you're doing, that's the time to think in terms of ways that you can add value. You can do more things for them than you're currently doing. This is probably a silly example, but I work with marketing consultants and they're certainly having some of their clients kind of contract and go, what do we do? Well, instead of saying, well, we need to buy more ads or we need to do this, we're helping them through their messaging. We're helping them talk about ways they can generate more referrals. We are helping them understand to some extent the impact of, say, the CARES Act, the Stimulus Act, that's being passed, and not that we're trying to be accountants or or even management consultants with them, but I think that that in times when there is kind of this unknown and this fear, if you can make yourself a more valuable asset for your client, you may have to work harder than you are today for maybe the same money or a little less money. But when we come out of this, that deeper sense of the relationship that you've built will pay off. And so I think that, needs to be done. Now, do you need to think of ways you can, pre-package your services, pre-sell some things, you may have to give discounts. Again, I prefer adding more, giving more. So instead of just saying, okay, we're going to cut the price, say, no, we're going to do these 5 things that you were not paying for before, and add those to it. So, but I think the number one thing is go talk to your clients. Ask them what they don't have, ask them what they need, ask them how you could reshuffle what you're doing, find ways to add more value, even if it's beyond the scope of what you've been hired or currently been seen to do for them. I mean, if you're in survival mode, it's like, okay, could we do project work? Could we take on this? In my past, I was a web designer. So could I actually start offering some services that are going to get me through along those lines? Just try anything right now. But if you've got existing clients, that's your first place that you should go to try to do more.
I agree totally. And, when you're working with your clients and letting them know that you're that valuable resource, that shows some of the value. And then when you add other values, I know with my coaching clients, I'm trying to do that right now because, they feel like they're on the roller coaster. Yep. Their emotions are on a roller coaster. So you can be that common sense person to really help them with the things that's going on. I mean, I'm doing, instead of sending it daily, I'm kind of consolidating information for my clients of what's coming out from the government and from other resources that I have. So I'm trying to collaborate it, and they may not be getting the same things I am. So I'm trying to put it in a method that they can really attach that information, be able to receive it. So some great information. Before I let you go, because you are such an expert in marketing, that I have to ask this, because I think small business owners also have to look as, how can now I really look at some things internally in my business that needs to improve? And in the past, a lot of small business owners thought having a website is great. Well, today it's no longer about just having a website. The website has to have a purpose. And I know you've got a process that you go through with this, and I just think this would be valuable for the business owner. Can you share your philosophies,
Sure.
What right now, what we really need to be looking at with our websites?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think a lot of people see a website as, this is how we get business. Or this is how people contact us. Sometimes how it's viewed. And the people that already know you, the people that are looking for your phone number, the people that are ready to buy, your website may service them. But the reality is about 85% of the people who visit your website for the first time will never buy anything. And I don't mean because they're turned off. It's just they're not ready yet. They're researching. They're trying to figure out what's out there. So you have to look at your website, and particularly today, I think your homepage, as really more of a tool to guide a journey. We use something we call the marketing hourglass, which is our customer journey that has 7 steps. They're know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. Know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And those are really behaviors that I think every one of our customers wants to go through. In some cases, they might blast through all of them in one meeting or something. But if they're coming to your website, you have to think in terms of what are they there? What do they need to learn? What do we want them to do? And so there are some essential elements that need to be there. Obviously, your site needs to load fast. It needs to be mobile friendly, because those are turnoffs. If that doesn't occur, it needs to actually promise to solve their greatest problem. You need to identify, here's who we work with. These are who get, tremendous value. They want to see themselves there. There need to be trust factors. They need to see who else you work with. They need to see testimonials. They need to see case studies. They need to see accreditations or, training of why, you're the best. They need to see, let's face it, Google and your clients need to see SEO content or content that allows them to go deeper. There need to be calls to action. I mean, there are people that come to your website that want to download information. There are people that will come to your website that want to schedule an appointment. They want to get a free estimate. So those opportunities all need to be there as well. So your website has a lot that it needs to accomplish and a lot of different objectives for the people that visit. And so think of it as a journey. And I think that that's why you see today the kind of current style are these long scrolling homepages that go on and on and on, because people are kind of checking boxes, as they scroll down that page, and you're addressing their behavior, their know, like, trust, and then hopefully try, buy, repeat, refer.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think, do you have a resource if they wanted to go to your website, be able to get some of the information?
Well, I've been producing information for so long that there are stockpiles of it. But with regard to what I just shared, fortunately we've been around so long that our content shows up in Google. So if you want to talk about the must-have elements of a website, and if you want to add duct tape marketing, then you'll for sure get there. And then if you want to do some research on what I just described, the marketing hourglass, that's also something that you could Google and will come up number one. But we have lots of, once you get there, we have guides that address specifically local businesses, professional businesses, consultants. We have a podcast that I've, as you mentioned, been doing forever. You can find all my books there. So it's just ducttapemarketing.com, and that's DUCTTAPE marketing.com.
Super. Well, thanks for sharing that, because I know you've got a lot of great information. I've been a follower of yours for, I don't know how long. It's been quite a while that I've been a follower of yours, and to be able to have you on a podcast is a real honor. So I thank you for that. But I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, the recharge round. I ask every guest these questions, and they're kind of my framework that I talk a lot about, that I share with a lot of my audiences. So I'm just curious. We talked a little bit about this, and it came out even in the piece that you read to us out of your book. But why do you believe mindset is so important in your life?
The tricky thing about mindset is it can either help you or hurt you. Because the mindset of I'm stupid, I'm fat, I can't, is also, just as detrimental as, I can accomplish this. I just need to trust myself. I have what it takes, or I know where to go get what it takes. And so I think that's, working. So it's not just a matter of, we know that mindset does allow us to do or not do what, we were meant to do. And so it's really a matter of going to work on intentionally the right mindset for you accomplishing your goals or your dreams.
Excellent. How about energy? And I'm not going to say, because I know you're an energetic guy and you stay active and things on that area. I'm going to go the different route of the days that you feel like maybe your energy is a little bit low. What gets you really rolling?
I think that one of the things that I, try to do, and it really does tap energy, because I think what drains energy a lot of times is our subconscious, is the stress that, we don't necessarily feel until we go home and realize like our back's killing us or something because we've been holding it there. So for me, if I can take times to get up and move, because it's really easy to sit at these desks, you're working head down on a proposal or something. So get up and move every hour. And, a couple times a day, I do practice meditation as part of my morning ritual. And a couple times a day, I just even for like 2 minutes, I will stop and shut everything down and just, I wouldn't even call it meditation. I just take 10 deep breaths and in and out. And, there's a tremendous amount of release that goes on in just doing that little simple thing.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that 2 minutes can totally change everything for you. I do it myself. And when you feel stressed, or I come off a coaching client and they've got a lot of stressful things going on, what do you do? As a coach, you feel some of that. So it's like, okay, how can I break away from that? And that's 2 minutes, and it changes my outlook completely. How about the number one connection or relationship that's made the biggest impact on your life?
Oh boy, there's so many that, that are human personal connections. But I will have to say, maybe this is the introvert in me coming out. But Peter Drucker is an author that I never met. He wrote a book in the 50s called The Practice of Management, which was actually written, for IBM types, at the time, I think. But it's had the greatest influence on how I think about business, and certainly how I thought about, marketing and duct tape marketing as I started to create it. So I always, I've read a number of his books. I have a book, a similar format to the Self-Reliant Entrepreneur. There's a book called The Daily Drucker that was really in some ways the inspiration for me writing the same format of book. And so I know that that's probably, it's probably kind of lame to have somebody call an inspiration that you've never met before, but I, it's one I point to all the time.
Excellent. Thank you. How about what advice has influenced you the most in your life?
It probably comes from, I'm not sure if this is advice, but it certainly came out to me as a guiding principle of my life. My mother was probably, some would say, overly optimistic. We have 10, she and my father had 10 children, and, so I'm one of 10. And, you imagine how stressful that could be. They were not wealthy. We were, we didn't know any better, but, we were, we were, pretty much growing our own vegetables and doing a lot of things to get by. And, I'd never, and my father, unfortunately, sometimes was a little stressed out about that. And, I just always remember my mom saying, it'll work out. So this thing was meant to happen because there's a better opportunity, around the corner. And I think it really did color a great deal of how I see the world and how I see my entrepreneurial journey. So not 100% sure that's advice, but it is good advice.
Excellent. How about favorite book and why you love it?
Yeah, well, I mentioned The Practice of Management already, so I kind of let the cat out of the bag on that one. Okay. But I'll tell you why I love it. And probably a follow-up to that would be Michael Gerber's The E-Myth, which, is kind of a simple book. It's, millions of people have read it. But both of those books were kind of the first, I think were the first. Drucker was writing for big companies, but he was the first to me that was talking about systems. And obviously he was talking about big companies, but he was the first that I ever read talking about systems for marketing. And that colored everything, as far as what I developed. And then obviously Gerber talked about it as well. And I actually did get to know Michael Gerber. He's probably approaching 80 now, but he wrote the foreword to Duct Tape Marketing. And so, his approach to systems for small business certainly influenced Duct Tape Marketing as well.
Great. How about the legacy? What legacy do you want to leave the world, John?
Yeah. So I'm going to be 60 in a week, actually a week from yesterday. And so that's been on my mind. And I think a lot of people, some people come to it earlier, but I think most entrepreneurs, if they achieve any level of success, at some point start thinking about what difference have I made? Who's been impacted? It's really odd, but somebody who writes books that people buy and read and then communicate, this has made a difference in my life. Terribly, terribly gratifying to have people suggest that. In fact, very humbling when people write to me and they've accomplished so much more in terms of their business size and what they've, the $200 million business. And they said, it all started with duct tape marketing. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So that part, but I will say that, especially why I wrote this last book. I do think, it's great to impact somebody's business, to show them how to get more leads, to get more business. But what I love is impacting somebody's life. If they can gain control over their business, if a book like The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur gives them, a sense of curiosity and trust and, courage, then that to me is probably the legacy that I hope, goes on far beyond me.
Well, you've definitely given it today by being on the Charge podcast. I know there probably as many entrepreneurs, but I know there's an entrepreneur listening today that when we were talking about that self-reliance and some of the information we shared there, and then them getting to look at their business as the marketing aspect, that you've made a difference in them. And I just can't thank you enough, John, for saying yes to the Charge podcast.
Oh, my pleasure.
Please share with them again, what's the best way to reach out to you?
You bet. So you can send me an email, john@ducttapemarketing.com. If you want to visit resources we have there, it's just duct tape, DUCTTAPE marketing.com. And then obviously I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all those places as well.
If you're a small business owner and you're really thinking about marketing and how to do it within your business, I highly recommend John. He has so many great tools out there. I've used many of them myself in my own business, and I would really tell you, look him up and give that information there. Because Chargers, it's about how can we improve? Okay, we can't change everything, but what's the choice we make today to move forward, to make that improvement, and then really decide what's that one action. What is the one action you're going to take from this podcast today and move your business forward? John, I can't thank you enough for being on the Charge podcast.
Thanks, Gary.
Chargers, I'm going to let you go because I know there's some information that you want to write down and you want to get started doing it. So thanks for listening to the Charge podcast. Remember, like it and review us and share our podcast with others, because that's how more people find out about the Charge podcast. Come back next week and we'll have another great guest. Make it a great day.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.